Hello everybody, welcome back. Today we've got Yanks on the call again, and we are going to be going over all of the Modern Horizons 3 green cards, giving them a rating between 1 and 10 based on how we think they will do in the average limited deck. Welcome back, Yanks.
Good to be back for color number 5.
Yeah, for those of you guys who might have missed the other colors and the introduction, make sure you guys go back and check those out, especially the introduction, because it is the most important. We go over all of the returning mechanics, as well as the draftable archetypes. There's 75 mechanics, so it'll help you in your evaluation of these cards. You ready to jump into green, Yanks?
Definitely.
All right, let's start with the Basilisk. No,
Nope.
Basking.
Asking.
I'm bad at these. Basking Brood Scale. As soon as I read it the fourth time, I realized 2 mana for a 2/2 with Devoid, and it has Adapt 2. 2 mana to adapt 1. It's already very late. Whenever one or more +1/+1 counters are put onto this, you may create an Eldrazi spawn creature token. Yay! Don't forget, guys, pre-order any Modern Horizons so that way you guys can pick up this very, very adorable Eldrazi spawn token of me and Hammy for free from CoolStuffInc, which is our sponsor. You'll get 5% off if you use code MNG5 on pre-con decks, sealed product, singles, you name it, and any pre-order will come free with this really cute token that you can use when you draft. It's cute, right, Yanks?
It's adorable. I don't know how anyone would ever sacrifice that thing for mana.
Right? So for the Basking Brood Scale, it's a bear with some pretty solid upside, especially if you have ways to move counters around or proliferate potentially. You can add counters. It only adapts itself once, but there are other things that can add counters to this.
The floor is fine with this card. I agree with you. If you have ways to do this multiple times, it can be pretty sweet. Otherwise, it's just a decent card. You get for 4 mana, you get a 3/3 and an 0/1. That's fine.
Yeah. I like that it's a 2-drop curve filler that then kind of scales with you when you have the extra time and mana and, becomes a lot more useful. Also, it's important to note that, green really wants this ramp that's associated with this card. Yeah, it's a 3/3 for 4 mana, but you're getting that extra oomph that you need for green because it is sort of the home of the Eldrazi colors, I think. So you're going to have the most big drops that you're going to want to use here in these colors. That said, I think that this is a solid card. I would say this is a 5.
Got it as a 5 as well. Playable, not exciting. Certain decks will want it, especially the ramp ones.
Perfect. Birthing Ritual, 2 mana for an enchantment at the beginning of your end step. If you control a creature, look at the top 7 cards of your library, then you may sacrifice a creature. If you do, you may put a creature card with mana value X or less from among them onto the battlefield, where X is 1 plus the sacrificed creature's mana value. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. It's nice that you get to look before deciding what to sacrifice, if and what to sacrifice, but I still don't think this is good enough.
They keep trying to find ways to make a birthing pod variant that doesn't end up just being completely broken over time.
It's that unfindable line between useless and broken.
Absolutely. And I don't know if the line is because you can do it at any time on birthing pod and this is just your end step, or more likely it's because you can only hit the top 7 cards.
Sorry, neighborhood dog's going crazy again.
Yep.
Yeah, it's just so tough. Spending a resource to do the 1-for-1 to dig through your deck to find stuff is just never really good enough in limited. These things always feel very constructed, which is fine for mythics. So for me, I'm not interested in this card. I would say that this is not a thing I'm looking to do. I'm gonna say a 1.
I think this is a 1 as well. It's hard to even get birthing pod to work in a format like Vintage Cube where you have much more defined strategies and higher powered individual cards, toolbox cards you can go get. In a regular limited format, you just don't have that.
Absolutely. All right. Collective Resistance. We have 2 mana for an instant. You can escalate. You can pay this cost for each mode chosen beyond the first. You can choose one or more. Destroy target artifact, an enchantment, or target creature gains hexproof and indestructible until end of turn. This is a great versatility card. I think I would definitely be running this.
You can often be hesitant to put the destroy target artifact or destroy target enchantment cards in your deck because they just sometimes don't hit enough. Although in this set there seems to be a decent amount of artifacts. but being able to add that hexproof or indestructible or both in this case clause means you at least get a combat trick if you don't have anything worth targeting.
Yeah, hexproof and indestructible will always be useful. It's going to brick solid removal every time. And then having the built-in option for removal is great. And like you said, I totally agree that this is going to be a set where that's going to be a lot more useful. I don't think I'm ever cutting the first one of these. I would love to have multiples in my sideboard. I'm going to say this is a 6.
6 sounds right to me.
All right, Colossal Dread Mask. This seems like a familiar card. Is this a reprint?
Kind of.
I remember a 6/6 with Trample.
Yeah. This seems very familiar. I like that they keep finding ways to get this in there somehow.
I don't know that it was a living weapon before, but I've seen like a very similar ability. But it's a 6 mana living weapon, comes into play with an O 0/0 Black Phyrexian Germ, and the equipped creature gets +6/+6 and trample with 5 equipped. That's awfully expensive, but green can do it a little bit easier than most. And +6/+6 is and trample is no small joke. You're wearing a Colossal Dreadmaw on your back as a backpack.
I kind of love that Wizards is just on board with the meme of Colossal Dreadmaw being everywhere by finding ways to put it everywhere.
Yes. I have zero problem with this card. I don't think I'm going to play it often. I'm just going to say that this is a 4.
Agreed. It's just
Well,
a little
no.
too...
Never mind. It's a living. It's not an equipment. I just keep thinking it's an equipment. It's a living weapon. It is a Colossal Dreadmaw, and then gets worse. Never mind. I'm lying. I like this card. I'm in. I don't care. I think this is like a 6.
I'm a little lower, probably at like a 5.5 or so, just because I think Colossal Dreadmaw was never great to begin with, and just as power level climbs, especially in the Modern Horizon set, it's probably a little worse. Balanced out a bit by the living weapon aspect, so I think it's just a little bit worse than that.
Yeah, but then by the time your Colossal Dreadmaw dies, you've got the mana to equip this, and you just get a nice free bonus for all your little Eldrazi spawns. They become 6/6s. Oh, so good. All right, well, I'm happy to be a little higher on this than you.
Sure.
Next mythic is Eladamri?
Eladamri Corvectal.
Sure. I said it first, the first half, right? All right.
So Eladamri is just a lore note, is the main character, one of the main characters of the Tempest block. He's the Elf Lord from Sky Shroud Forest there, and the Kor, the Vek, and the Dal are like the 3 human tribes. That the Korvek Dal is supposed to be like the uniter. They're prophesied uniter of the 3 of them.
Okay. Well, he's a 3/3 elf warrior for 3 mana. You may look at the top of your library at any time. You may cast creature spells from the top of your library. Tell me more. And for a green, you can tap him. Tap 2 untap creatures you control. Reveal a card from your hand or the top of your library. If you reveal a creature card this way, put it on the battlefield. Activate only during your turn. Excuse me. What? You can cast them from the top of your library, and you can just pay to tap 3 things and then just put it onto play from either hand or library. That seems busted.
The fact that you have to tap effectively 3 creatures slows this down a bit, but the amount of mana you can save on some of this is pretty nuts.
Yeah, well, I think the idea too is that it's sort of like Convoke, right? So like you play the creature from the top of your deck, you cast it, right? And then you use the creatures that you're casting once you run out of mana to then convoke, because those, only this is the thing that needs not to be summoning sick. The rest of the creatures can be. Sure. So like you're just getting freebies off the top if you can chain a bunch of creatures like together at one time. Then you're looking pretty good. And even if you can't, you could choose to dump the ones from your hand and just convoke the one from the top. So you're really getting the most bang for your buck there.
I think this card's very good.
I'm going to say that this is a game-winning card if left to do its thing. I'm very, very happy with this card. 8.9 or 8.5. 8.9. Well, at first I was like, 9 seems a little high, so that's why 9 was in my head. So 8.5.
I'm at 8, but we're right in the same area.
Yeah, my decks tend to have like 5 more creatures than your deck, so like that's the extra half point, I think.
And I guess the presence of Eldrazi spawning green makes it easier to have a couple extra things you don't mind tapping.
Yeah. I mean, just the idea that you're getting extra card draw for like every time there's a creature, you just save what's in your hand and just keep dumping stuff off the top makes me super happy.
Agreed. That effect is always good.
All right, Eldrazi. We have a 3 mana 3/3 with Devoid. When you cast this, whenever you cast this spell, and when Eldrazi dies, create a colorless spawn with sacrifice. And it looks like this. Don't forget, go pre-order. 3/3s for 3. That this gives you 2 of those bodies for you to put a Colossal Dreadmaw on its back. Yeah, I'm into it. This seems like a 6.
Nothing's really complicated about this card. Just good value. 6.
Yeah, and it's good value, and it's doing exactly what Green wants to be doing, which is making these Eldrazi, and you're just kind of doing it for free with like a fine casted creature to begin with. So I'm here for it, and I'm getting more and more impressed with the different uses for Eldrazi.
Sure. As we've gone through the set, we've seen more and more
Of the little puny guys, yeah. Like the Siege Gang Commander, the like Colossal Dreadmaw backpack, like we can do some sweet stuff, even if you're not just ramping into an Emrakul or whatever.
Yeah.
Evolution Witness, 3 mana for a 2/3 Elf Shaman Mutant. You can pay 2, adapt 2 whenever one or more +1/+1 encounters are put onto this, return target permanent card from your graveyard to your hand. So this is an Eternal Witness that you can use multiple times if you can trigger other counters, or if you can flicker this or remove counters. That's cool. And I'm fine with a 5 mana 4/3 that got a card back.
This feels like one I don't particularly want to play unless I have ways to do some shenanigans with it. Either flickering or removing the counters and doing it again, or adding counters some other way.
I agree that makes it much better, but I don't think I'm cutting this card super often. I like this.
I'm starting to just worry a little bit in green if we are going to run out, and with some other colors too, particularly already with the multiple adapt cards, and I know there's more coming, that we're just going to run into too many mana sinks, so you end up not really being able to use half these abilities while still progressing your board.
With this being one of the main Eldrazi spawn tokens, I'm not too worried about it, because you just saw like a 3-drop that comes into play with a free one, so it should make things pretty cheaply costed. And also the format does seem a little slower than some of the more recent standard sets. I think this will be grindy enough to where I can get in a good chunk of value. So
I hope it is. I'm so skeptical of limited formats being slow anymore.
that said, I don't think that this is crazy good. I wouldn't run like a ton of these, but I don't think I'm cutting the first one. I think this is the point where I'm pretty happy, but using them sparingly. So I will say the first one is like a 6 for me.
I'm a little bit lower. I'm still probably putting this in my deck, but I'm at like a 5.
Fair. All right. Next up, we've got Fanatic of Aronis, a Snake Druid that adds it's a 1/4 for 2. It's a good stat line for a mana dork. Adds a colorless, and Ferocious adds 4 green if you have power 4 or greater, and you can eternalize it. You can exile this card from your graveyard and create a 4/4 black token with no mana cost. This card seems fantastic.
It's nice that the Eternalize ability works with its own Ferocious ability. Once it's out, it's a 4/4, and you can now tap it for 4.
Yes. I see what you're saying. It took me a second to comprehend. I'm a little spacey all of a sudden. Need some more coffee. Yeah, I agree. I think that's nice. I like this card. It is very well rounded. It's good value. I don't think it'll be hard to get Ferocious on board with green, so even the stat line is great. Like we used to have something similar with like Sylvan Carotid, and it was like any color that you wanted up to 2, but it was like a 1/1. I don't know. I do like this.
Oh, yeah.
And you have that eternalized value. You just make another 4/4 after ramping yourself into oblivion. Like, this seems good. I'm hesitant. It is a mana dork, and it's a 4/4, costs a fair amount. I'm hesitant to give it any more, but I think it's a 7.
Yeah, seven's where I have it as well. It's just a strong card.
All right, next up, Fangs of Colonia. Yeah, sure. 2 mana for
Sure.
a sorcery. Put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control. Then double the number of +1/+1 counters on that had words. Double the number of +1/+1 counters on each creature that had a +1/+1 counter on it this way.
Yeah, that's a really weirdly worded card, but it has
It's
to be that
because
way
of
because of
overload.
overload. Yeah.
So it does that to me where it like the sentence does not make sense until you get
Yep.
to the end, but then because it doesn't make sense, I stumble and stop. So I was just trying to like parse that, and then as soon as
So
like I saw overload right before you said it too, and I was just like, okay.
yeah, it's a weird one.
And then you can cast it for 6. You may cast a spell for its overload cost. If you do, change the target to each. So you would just be getting 2 +1/+1 counters on everything, or more if it already had some, which
Yep.
is cool. I like these cards. I don't think I would be in love with it at just 2 at sorcery speed, but it would still be something I would play, especially with all of the adapt abilities and a lot of the adapt abilities giving more abilities to creatures who are modified. So I think I'm still playing this, but the overload makes it really nice as a nice, good end game finisher. Really beefs up all your Eldrazi spawn tokens if you need them. I'm playing one of these cards. I think it can be a bit of a blowout, so I'm happy to run this in my green creatures deck.
Especially if I have those adapt cards, because I think, and I would I have to double check the rules on this, but I think like for Evolution Witness that we just saw, this would trigger that twice because you're putting counters on in two separate instances, even though it's the same spell.
Yep. Yeah,
So
and so any of your evolve or adapt creatures are also going to do something similar because a lot of those had abilities that triggered when the counters went on. So that'd be interesting.
yeah,
Yeah, rating wise, I like this. The flexibility makes me very happy, so I would run one of these in most green decks. So I'm gonna say it's a 6.
I think I would too in green. You just generally are going to have enough creatures in your green decks to make this worthwhile, especially when you factor in spawn tokens.
Yeah. All right. Flare of Cultivation. We have a rare 3-drop sorcery. You may sacrifice a non-token green creature rather than pay this mana cost to search your library for up to 2 basic lands, reveal those cards, and put them onto the battlefield tapped, and the other into your hand and shuffle. So it's just Cultivate for free. But it's sorcery speed. This is a fine card, as is Cultivate and all of those things, but it feels a little underwhelming when all of the other colors got free spells that did scary things that like messes with your opponent. So like sacking your creature to then just ramp feels less good than sacking a creature to like counter their bomb that they didn't play around a counterspell for.
I almost, even though you have to, I almost don't want to even factor the sacrifice ability into this because to me this card is just a harder to cast cultivate.
Yeah, I think we're still always running this card a good chunk of the time with any sort of splash or ramp in green. So I don't want to dock it too much, but it just doesn't feel like it's in created in the same spirit as the rest of this cycle. It's not giving green the same tools as it is for the other colors. Now it's the same vein, right? It's what green does, and the
Yeah,
same can be true for the other
that's the
colors. But the others are more punishing to the opponent, where this doesn't feel like you're getting that, and that feels really bad.
it's the tricky thing they've run into with 5 color cycles all the way back to like the very first cycle in alpha with the boons where you had 1 mana do 3 of something. Well, at that time, what did blue do that you could do 3 of? Well, you had to let them draw 3 cards, even though they knew that was busted because you can't counter 3 spells, right? Like you're always running. Sometimes certain colors struggle with figuring out what to do with these cycles, and in this case, it's green.
That said, we're still running this in a good chunk of decks. I would say it's a 5.
Agreed.
Excellent. Foul Strike. Oh my gosh, did we? What is? He has got a balloon that he punched this thing with, and it's a chicken
I,
whose eyes are coming out of its head.
I assume he's using the balloons to float, and he just punched them with his fist.
Oh, he's fly. He used a balloon to fly up and punch a bird
Punch.
in the face.
Apparently.
Because punching a bear was no longer sporting enough. Okay. 2 mana, destroy target creature with flying with reinforce 2. If you discard a card, put 2+1/+1 counters on target creature. Interesting. So you can kind of double this as a combat trick if you need to, or can, I should say. This is a sideboard card. I'm going to say it's a 2.
I think it's mostly a sideboard card, although it's one that, unlike a lot of times, you're actually okay with putting into as your 23rd because you've just got that alternate option. Instead of like cycling, you've got put 2 counters on target creature.
Yeah, I feel like I would have those in. I used to have a little bit more artifact and enchantment removal. Sometimes I would use the destroy target flyer just because some sets it was like good enough. But I feel like now the quality of cards have gone up. There's no more draft chaff. So I find that these cards are not making it into my 23rd playables anymore. I think you're right. It's got that fail safe plan, but it feels like lately that hasn't been good enough anymore.
I think you're mostly right. I think in this set, if I had enough adapt stuff going on, I'd be okay with sticking it in there
That's fair.
because the failsafe isn't just replacing itself; it's actually doing something.
Yeah, if you have adapt and some proliferates and things like that, yeah, certainly there will be a deck that where the 2 counters are a little bit more than just bare bones, but the cards are still good. I'm still hoping we can find better.
I agree. I think it's mostly a sideboard card. I'd probably have it just a tad higher in that sideboard range at like a 3.
Gift of Viper, 1 mana for an instant. Put a +1/+1 counter, a reach counter, and a death touch counter on target creature, and you get to untap it. That's a great combat trick for 1 mana. I'm gonna die to this card a lot.
Feels like every time they print this, there's a new ability added onto it.
Yeah, they're
Used
adding counters. It's not just reach for a turn. It's a counter for proliferate and adapt and oh my goodness, everything. This is very good.
I feel like it wasn't that long ago we had like green mana, untap it, gets +2/+2 and reach till end of turn, and that was perfectly fine. And now it's obviously only 1/1, but 3 counters.
We're never gonna be able to play around this card. I think this is a 6.5 for a combat trick.
Agreed. Just
It's
so cheap, it does so much. It works with all your modified stuff.
crazy how good these things are getting. Horrific Assault, 1 mana for a sorcery. Target creature you control deals damage equal to its power to target creature or planeswalker you don't control. If you control an Eldrazi, you'll gain life.
Is this the first punch spell we've seen for only 1 mana?
Hmm. Maybe?
I certainly could be missing one, but I feel like
They're
they've always
usually
been at least
two.
2, sometimes 2 at instant speed. But
Yeah.
like WoW has prey upon gotten power crept out of everything.
There was one recently, but it was it was a fight at 1 mana.
Sure.
So yeah, I don't think so. This is Green's premium removal, 1 mana. It's sorcery speed, which is a little rough. I would say like the 2-3 mana at instant speed and the 1 mana at sorcery is all pretty premium. So this is going to be pretty close to Green's 8. I would probably say that it's a 7.5 just because Green removal is not ever as good.
There's no such thing as unconditional green removal like you get in some of the other colors or even some of the really big red bird spells. You
Yeah,
always need something on the board to make this relevant, and it's always vulnerable to getting blown out in response.
yeah, agreed.
So, agreed. It's cheap. It's very good. I'm never cutting this card, but it doesn't get to that 8 level to me either. It's like a 7 or 7.5.
Great. The Hunger Tide Rises. Chapter 1, 2, and 3 for this saga, you get a 1/1 black and green insect creature token. Chapter 4, you may sacrifice any number of creatures, search your library and or graveyard for a creature card with mana value less than or equal to the number of creatures sacrificed this way. You may put it onto the battlefield. You may search your library. Huh.
So, make a token, make a token, make a token, sack 4 or 5 things to get a 5 drop, or just sack these 3 tokens to get a 3 drop, which is what you paid for to start with.
Yep. Over several turns.
That doesn't sound that exciting.
It does not.
But that being said, I mean, like 3 mana for 3 tokens over time, and then the potential for doing something if you want, because you don't have to do the fourth. Maybe you have some spawn running around that you don't mind sacrificing.
The spawn is what I'm thinking about. If I have a spawn deck, I think I'm running this, but other than that, I don't think I am. The insects it makes on its own are not quite good enough. That's the rate I expect. That's less than the rate I expect for what I'm already paying for the mana cost. And I am not wanting to sacrifice them to just find a 3 drop or more creatures. Like, that is just not good enough. So I have to have other synergies that are feeding into this. And even then, I'm not thrilled with it. I think this is just a 4.
Which, and going into this, I know this card is slower than that, but would you play 3 mana, make 3/1/1s? I'm not sure if I would or not.
Yeah, I think I would.
This is obviously much slower than that, so it's not
Yeah.
the same thing. I'm trying to calibrate.
Yeah, three mana make 3/1/1s. Like, I would do that.
Yeah, I think I'm right with you on 4. I'm trying to get a gauge on where we think that sort of effect lies, even if this is over several turns.
I think 1 mana per 1/1 is like quite reasonable. Like, raise the alarms and things like that. Or you'll see like the 4 mana one that gives you 2 knights. Now those knights I think had vigilance, which was pretty dope, but it's still like 1 mana per stat of per 1/1 of stat power, right?
Agreed. It's funny with the 1/1s to me, and I don't know if you agree with this or not, but like I raise the alarm, great, right? 2 mana, 2/1/1s. I love that effect. Really cheap and really expensive because you can go super wide and make fun of that. Like the middle ground almost just seems worse. Like the
Yeah.
three or 3/1/1s, 4/1/1s. So I don't know. That just kind of occurred to me while we were looking at this.
Yeah, it depends definitely on the format, but I think as a general rule of thumb, I'm fine with it.
Okay.
All right. Rating wise, I think it's a 4.
Yeah, I'm with you on the 4.
All right, Hydra Trainer, 2 mana for a 1/1. You may exert the Hydra Trainer as it attacks. When you do, target creature gets +X/+X, where X is the number of counters on permanents you control, on all of them, and it gives itself adapt 2. So it can give, you can exert this as it attacks to give target creature, including itself, +2/+2, is what like it has its own stats for. Huh.
And it's just counters, so like lore counters work.
Or the 1 mana snake bite that we just saw that gave what,
Yep.
3 counters
3 counters. Yep.
for 1 mana. Yeah. No, I think this is really cool, especially for an uncommon, but on its base, like on its own, all included, for 5 mana, it's attacking as a 5/5 that can also use that mana on something else. I think that's fine, especially for an uncommon. I'm probably never cutting this card. I think it's like a 6.
Sure, it does only get to attack as a 5/5 every other turn
Yes.
because of Exert, which I don't think that necessarily makes the card bad, but just want to acknowledge that since this is one of 947 mechanics in this set.
Yes. And it could also very, very easily be attacking as a 10/10 every other turn.
True.
Which is pretty dope for a walloping 5 mana. So I think there's enough counters in this set to make me pretty happy with the number of adapt and the number of like keyword counters. It seems pretty scary.
No argument there.
6.
6.
All right, next we have Lion Umbra. Enchant creature, enchant modified creature. Enchant creature gets +3/+3 and it has vigilance and reach. And Umbra armor. If enchant creature would be destroyed, instead remove all damage from it and destroy the aura. So the creature has to be modified to equip this?
I guess. I'm trying to parse that out. I imagine, yeah, that's got to be the case.
Yeah, it says enchant a modified creature, so it already has to be modified, which makes sense because 2 mana for +3/+3 and reach and like 1 instance of indestructible seems like pretty fucking busted. So
Agreed. The part I'm trying to parse out is what happens if this is on a creature with another aura and you destroy that other aura.
in response,
No, even after it's on. Like, does it still? In response, it would just fizzle. But after it's on, does it count as being modified by itself
I think
because
so.
it's already there. I would think yes,
Because
but it's just a weird one.
I feel like it would make the check, and the check would be that it is modified.
I agree. I think that's the way it would work. It's just like just weird enough that I'm not 100% sure.
Yeah. Hmm. Well, hear me out here. I know this is a weird situation. So it could also be like an equipment where it's weird. Like, so if you, like, an equipment says equip creature you control, right? And if someone steals your thing, it doesn't fall off. Does that make sense? So you
Yes,
met the requirement to put the equipment on at the
that's fair.
time. So I'm thinking, like, maybe it doesn't even check. It just is on the creature like the equipment.
I think that's a reasonable uh, assertion too. I could see that being the case.
Who knows, right? Like, things are getting funky in here. There's actually on Decked Out, on one of our recent episodes, we had a situation where the game ended, and a lot of people think that it ended in an illegal way, and people are like, oh, that's, he didn't deserve the win, that's bullshit, he cheated, misplay cost the game, yada yada yada. And we were like, we thought we played it right, and we also played it with two very smart people who were very good at Magic, and we talked to some judges, and some of the judges were like, no, it's good. And then those judges talk to other judges that are also high judges, and they're like, no, it's not good. And like, so we have like level 3 judges ruling differently. And like the judge community is like, what is happening? And I think that the general consensus is that we did it right. But it is interesting to see that, like, amongst high level judges, there's still a lot of back and forth between them in which they can't quite figure it out, heads or tails, which is interesting.
It's a complex game with 30 plus years of cards and rules interactions. I remember at MagicCon Chicago, I was borrowing somebody's commander deck in a game, and I think I broke a judge's brain because we didn't know how this worked. And I don't remember the name of the card because it wasn't my deck. But basically, I stole a bunch of stuff and then died before it could all go back to them. And I'm like, does this all get exiled then? Because all my stuff gets exiled when I die? Which
My,
the general consensus was yes, we think.
my understanding is that if you've stolen it from someone, it goes back to them. But if you
It might
play it from the top of their library, then it gets exiled with you.
that might have been it. It was something. It was a very strange card because everybody looked at me as like, because I'm like, I think all the stuff just stays exiled. And they're like, "Mm, maybe.
Anyway, I still think this is a very good card because there's a lot of modified, there's a lot of adapt, there's a lot of living weapons. There's this. I don't think this will be hard to equip. I've been really impressed by this archetype, and I actually did draft the Selesnya +1/+1 counters deck in one of the drafts, and it was really really good. There are multicolor creatures that just come into play with counters, adapt. There's living weapon. It's infinite the number of things that you can get to like sort of enable these. So I'm not really wanting to punish this card for the first clause, and I think it's a great rate on its own. So I'm happy with this card. I think it's a 6 in that deck.
I think so as well. We spent a lot of time on the rules shenanigans there, but on its face, 99% of the time you play this card, it's just going to be very strong.
Yeah, I agree. And honestly, this is a split rating card, which I don't feel the need to do because like you very much know when you're not interested in this card. So, and I feel like when you're in green, you're also more interested.
Agreed.
All right. Malevolent Rumble. 2 mana for a sorcery. Reveal the top 4 cards of your library. You may put a permanent card from among them into your hand and put the rest into your graveyard. Create an 0/1 colorless Eldrazi spawn. That is very cute and looks like Hamlet. Um, we lost the sponsorship the first time. I don't want to lose it again, okay?
Fair.
I think this card is okay. It's just kind of a replacement that enables a lot of the other things that this archetype is doing. It's going wide. It's giving you more creatures to like put those counters on, to sacrifice into big things. So if you're looking to cycle and be aggressive with that, or if you have anything that wants cards in the graveyard, there's like what, 1 threshold card, 3
There's a
threshold
couple.
cards.
Yeah, there's a few threshold cards.
So like, that's fine. Um, That said, these are just kind of like replacement cards, so I'm gonna still say it's like a 4.
Agreed. There's cards that just they find their way on the chopping block and get cut more often than not
Yeah.
at the end.
These things used to be a lot more playable. It's just cards are so good now.
Definitely.
Monstrous Vortex, 4 mana for an enchantment. Whenever you cast a creature spell with power 5 or greater, discover X, where X is that spell's mana. This is going to be good in a specific deck. There, there are a lot of payoffs and enablers for casting large things in this set.
Certainly seems like it, given the quantity of Eldrazi spawn we've seen and some of the ramp cards we've already seen in green alone.
That said,
I just think
it's got to be a split rating, right?
it does. And with all, I just took a quick look, and you usually think that green is the one that's going to have the most, but there's only one green card that's 5 mana or more. That's a creature, because like the living weapon doesn't count.
Interesting. Yeah, you're true. That there's only one creature that's 5 or more mana.
That's mono green, yeah.
Wow, this set is so low. What?
I mean, there's an X creature, so that will often be over 5 too, I guess.
Hmm.
But
Okay.
now, granted, you've got a bunch of colorless Eldrazi that'll all hit that mark, so that adds some gold cards, but it's not as many as you would expect in green, at least.
Okay. Well, that makes me change my rating. I'm gonna say that this is a 4.
Agreed. Specifically in that Eldrazi deck, if you have enough of the colorless payoffs, most of which are uncommon or rare,
Mm-hmm.
then sure, but otherwise, it's going to be tough to find enough to make this worthwhile.
Yeah, absolutely agree. All right, next we have the Nightshade Dryad, 2 mana for a 1/2 Death Touch. It can add a colorless mana, that's nice. And it can also tap to add 1 mana of any color, that's even better. Wow, this card is fantastic.
I love that they don't have a mechanism yet to make that all one line.
Yeah,
They haven't figured out a way. You can't say type because then you've got like hybrid and some other weird stuff that's going on, or Phyrexian mana. Like, at some point, I imagine they'll figure out a method to make that just one line. But for now, you got a 1/2 Death Toucher that taps for anything. Great.
yeah. It's got a good keyword, it blocks 1/1s, fixes. This does everything I want in the world. This is like the point where I am over the moon about my commons and uncommons, and to me that's like a solid 6.5. I want to say
And
7, but it doesn't, it's not, it's a 2 drop. It's not winning the game
yeah,
on its own.
I like 6.5 as well. I still like the other mana dork we saw earlier better, even though it's only green. Granted, that card was rare, but
Oh, yeah, yeah,
uh,
the snake.
yeah. So 6.5 seems good to me.
I don't know if I like that one better, honestly.
The Eternalize and the ability to like turbocharge your ramp if you're hitting those Eldrazi cards is really nice.
Yeah, you have to have the ferocious. This is, I mean, I'm more into like any color and enabling my colorless stuff for free, because we have seen a few of those like kicker costs things, and we've been a little hesitant to be excited about those because of how the set is like got a little bit of a 3 color vibe in it too, because there's so much cross pollination between the payoffs and things. So I love the idea that I can sneak that in for free.
Sure, there definitely will definitely be decks where this is the better
Yeah.
mana dork.
And now I totally agree. If you're just like green big stompies, then the other one's going to be better, hands down. But I think I will be building more things with this.
Fair.
Nyxborn Hydra, X and a green for an 0/1 with Bestow X green green. Reach and Trample when it enters the battlefield with X counters on it. And then also, Enchant Creature gets +1/+1 for each +1/+1 counter on it, and it also gains Reach and Trample. That's fine.
We've
This is the
seen
kind of card that just scales really well, right? It's just a 3 mana 2/3, and then it gets bigger and better as you go.
and sometimes it's a 3 mana +1/+1 reach trample, which might be good enough on a flyer or on a flyer doesn't need trample on a like a 5/5 you've already cast.
It's also modified. It doubles counters well. It does all sorts of cool things. Makes your other creatures modified. So if you need that, all is right with the world. I think this card is good. I'm going to say that this is a 6.
6 for me as well.
I mean, realistically, it's probably like a 5.5 because of, you know, power stuff, but this does feel very good.
I think, yeah, it's going to get a little bit of a benefit from what we just talked about with Monstrous Vortex, with there not being a ton of expensive green cards. So
Yeah.
having something that can scale up might be nice.
Path of Annihilation, 4 mana for an enchantment with Devoid. When it enters the battlefield, create 2 Eldrazi spawn, and then Eldrazi spawn Eldrazi you control have tap. Add a mana of any color. Oh, it makes them reusable. Whenever you cast a creature with creature spell with value 7 or greater, gain 4. I don't really care about that very much.
Yeah.
But it does make 2 Eldrazi spawn that ramp you infinitely. So it's like sort of like kind of a better cultivate in a way. Like, I mean, they can remove those, but this seems playable in the big deck.
That was my biggest problem with this card is the name. How is Path of Annihilation not a removal spell? If Path to Exile is a removal spell, Path of Annihilation better be.
I feel like it's the path in which the Eldrazi spawn are taking to come smash you in the face.
Fair.
Right? Because the little dudes are helping the Eldrazi. They're like, come Eldrazi, follow me! Like the little like spirits from like Princess Mononoke, just marching through the forest, leading them to like bash you in the face.
It's just my instinct. When I read that card name and saw like the frame that it was devoid, I was like, oh, okay, they're going to use this colorless stuff to give you like something green doesn't normally get, like a hard removal spell. And then no, it's not that at all.
Nope, they're just giving you mana dorks.
It's exactly what green does.
Rating wise, I think this is pretty playable. I'm gonna say this is like a 5. I think a lot of what green is trying to do is gonna be these little dweebs, and it makes those little dweebs even better. So I like it.
I mean, is that with the guaranteed like 1 point bump because it makes 2 hammy tokens?
Oh yeah, I need to have 2. I only have 1 in my OBS. I need 2. So that means you guys really need to put in 2 orders because this isn't uncommon. Yeah, so make sure you guys, order some precons and then put that order in and then go back and order some singles so you can make sure you can cast this card. It's a 10 out of 10. You're going to need those tokens. We're shilling way harder in this one than any of the other ones.
That makes more hammies. We can't help it.
This is the set for the color for the hammies.
Yeah.
Primal Prayers. 4 mana for an enchantment. When it enters, get 2 energy. You may cast creature spells with mana value 3 or less by paying 1 energy rather than their mana cost. You may cast if you cast a spell this way, you may cast it as though it had flash. That's kind of cool. I like the flash part of it. Huh.
I'm not 100% sure I'm understanding the way this card works.
Why?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure if I'm reading. I think because I didn't until you just read it that way. Didn't think that this meant by paying 1 energy. To me, it just read by paying energy. Like that you'd have to. If it was a 3-drop, it would cost you 3 energy.
I think it would say energy equal to its mana cost if that was the case.
You're probably right, but that's not the way I read it initially.
Yeah, I think this card would be pretty garbage if that were the case. And I still don't think it's great because it's not giving you any card draw. It's not really enough to sort of enable other energy stuff. So it just lets you cast 2 3-drops for like instant speedy stuff, which
and saves you 2 mana, right? If you're paying 2 3-drops for 4 mana, basically.
I'm not willing to pay 1 full card to save me.
No.
To save me 2 mana.
I don't think I am either, but I guess that scales pretty well if you make more energy.
If you can find the cards for it. Yeah. Green not known exactly for its infinite card draw of 3-drops.
Well, that's fair.
If all's my deck has is a bunch of green 3-drops, I feel like I'm probably dead and should just go home early and or eat dinner or something. Like if this is the business we're in, we have failed something miserably. I don't know. There might be like I was thinking maybe like Gruul or something, but even Gruul wants some bigger beaters. But it's interesting. I like that they're flash. I think that's relevant, but I don't like it. I'm gonna say this is a 3.
I agree. It's just not strong enough. It doesn't do enough. It doesn't replace itself.
If it drew a card or gave you a clue or I don't know, did something, then I would like it a little bit more. But let's move on to the next 2/2 for 2. Creature tokens you control have evolve. Okay. Excuse me? Pay 4, create an 0/1 colors Eldrazi spawn creature token. This is a huge freaking payoff at uncommon. This is great.
Yeah, you've got all these tokens already. You're hopefully in this color pair. You can just start pumping them out here, and then all you need is a
A
1 drop to
2-drop?
get
Yeah.
or 2 drop to get a bunch of counters.
Oh. And that's going to trigger all of your like adapts and your oh my goodness. Or not adapts, all of your modifieds. That's the one I'm thinking of. Sorry. Hammy's angry. I like this card. This is a huge payoff. This is a 7 in the deck that wants it. It's in the deck that wants it, it's higher. 7.5.
Sounds right to me. This has extremely strong potential.
Sorry. Next one, Signature Slam, 3 mana 4. Put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control. Then each modified creature you control deal damage equal to target creature you don't control. Yeah. So 3 mana for an instant speed, put a counter on something and then punch it, and then potentially punch it for more. Are these 2 apes like double teaming this raptor? That's
Yeah.
pretty interesting choice. It's instant speed. This is their green's pretty premium. It's going to enable other modified things as well, which is nice. Synergies that stack 7.5.
7.5 sounds right, although it's pretty quality flavor text for the art. A lone dinosaur in gorilla territory doesn't stand a chance. And that's what we're seeing.
Love it. I like how the gorilla has like actual armor too.
Just one of them though. The other gorilla doesn't.
And delivering the people's elbow, no less. 6, 3 mana for a 2/4 with reach that says whenever it attacks you mill 3. You can put a land card from among them into your hand. As long as it's your turn, non-land permanents you control have retrace. You can discard a land as an additional cost to paying its mana cost and replay things from your graveyard. I actually played this card this past week and it was fantastic. You guys can see this in action next week on Decked Out when I got to play in that game, and this card kicked some major butt for me. It was super cool. Actually got me out of a little bit of a land screw, so I like this card a ton.
Retrace is kind of a sneakily powerful ability.
Especially when it gives you the lands to do it.
Yeah.
I like this card.
It's a green deck, so you're going to be primarily permanent. You probably don't have a ton of spells, which makes it even more valuable.
I think if left to do its thing, this thing can win games. So for me, that's an 8.
Ooh, I see where you're going with that, and you have experience with the card, and I do not. This doesn't feel quite that strong, so I'm gonna go with 7.5.
That's totally
but
fair.
I get where that's coming from.
If it said like this card has to attack this turn to also retrace to do the land thing, then I would knock it down a lot more. The thing that I like is that even when it's bricked, you are still going to draw lands, right? Like you can still get those retrace triggers, and it's just going to help smooth your draws. It's going to give you so much value over time if left. So yeah, I am very high on this card, so I'm excited to play it. Sowing Myco Spawn. We have a 4 mana 3/3 devoid with kicker 2. When you cast the spell, search your library for a land card, put it onto the battlefield, and shuffle. And when you cast the spell, if it was kicked, you can exile target land. Excuse me? This is. Are we. What? We're like removing people's land?
We're getting extra land and getting rid of their land.
Huh. Okay.
Also, I mean, I guess this is the case with all these Eldrazi. They're both cast triggers again, so countering them doesn't stop the triggers.
Yeah, I feel like limited land removal is pretty mean, but if you are doing that, it's at 6 mana, so it's like your opponent, is at 5 or 4 worst case scenario, so it's not the end of the world, but it's pretty nasty.
It is. It's a 4 mana 2-for-1. Now, granted, your second one is a land, and a 6 mana 3-for-1.
Yeah. That's pretty good.
Pretty good.
Yeah, I'm here for this card. Let's say. I like it at 6.5 just for the idea of paying 4 to get a land, like play a 3/3, get a land.
Sounds right to me. I don't think it's quite powerful enough to be higher than that because a lot of times the land destruction isn't going to matter too much.
Yeah.
If you were in a set that had a ton of utility lands, the set has a few, but not a lot. Maybe that would be a little different.
Yeah. Next up, we have the Spring Heart Nantuko, 2 mana for a 1/1 with Bestow. Enchant creature gets +1/+1 and landfall. Whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, you may pay 2. If you do, Nantuko is attached to a creature you control. If you do, pay 2 if it is attached to a creature you control. If you do, create a token that's a copy of the creature. If you didn't create a token this way, create a 1/1 green Sneck. Wow. 2 mana 1/1 that makes a Sneck every turn, or just makes a copy of whatever it's bestowed on?
Uh-huh.
Excuse me? So 2 mana, I put this on my 4/4 for 4 on turn 5, and then I just play my land and then make another 4/4?
You got it.
And then when they kill my 4/4, this will fall off?
Yep, and then you only
and
make
then you
one
make
once.
snakes.
Oh no.
Okay. This is stupid. Yep, this card's good. It's gonna win games. 8.5.
8.5 as well. It's kind of stupidly strong.
Oh, it's a bushwag. All right, I love it. Temperamental Oozewag, 4 mana for a 4/4 with Adapt 2 for 3 mana, and modified creatures you control have trample. This is a little Adapt Lord. He's very cute, and I think he's a great rate all by himself. I'm going to play him at a 6 with some pretty good upside.
No arguments here. Good card, good rate, and we've seen enough Adapt stuff to know that there's going to be counters all over the place.
Territory Color, 5 mana for a 7/5 with Devoid and Reach and Landfall. Whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, look at the top card of your library. If it's a creature card, you may reveal it and put it into your hand. If you don't put that card into your hand, you may put it into your graveyard. This is a fine rate. I like the landfall ability to try to draw some extra cards. I don't care what the ability is that says do a thing with the top of your deck. In a recent set in Thunder Junction, it's attack with this vehicle, reveal the top card. If it's a land, put it into play tapped. If it's not, you leave it there. Whatever the gamble is, there was a 2 mana green 1/3 that you could look at you could tap it to look at the top and put a land into your hand if you hit it. You know what I mean? That was a while ago.
I do. I can't remember the name of that card.
That was a while ago. Yeah. So anytime you have that sort of ability where you get to just roll the dice in every time, and this is a little bit different because it's a lot more expensive, but I'm okay with that. And you're getting a pretty big, scary creature to boot. So this is Yeah, it's self-correcting with mill too, or with flood, so I love it.
And it's just great above rate, right? 5 mana 7/5.
Yeah.
with a keyword.
Yeah. Is this like a 6.5?
I kind of want to give it a 7.
Okay, okay.
It's just so overstated.
Yeah, the stats are good.
You don't even have to draw a card to get like a card's worth of value here. You might be able to just mill 2 things that you don't want to draw
Yeah,
over a couple turns, even if you're
absolutely.
not hitting creatures.
Yeah, you just play your land. It lets you get rid of that second land.
Well, it makes for a fun decision, right? It's like, do I want to mill that second land and draw a random card, or do I want to take it, guarantee my land drop, and then maybe get another card?
It depends if you need the land or not. Like I feel like if you are
Agreed.
flooding, if you are just trying to get creatures off the top, then you just are better off just drawing the other card because it could be an instant or sorcery and you just don't want to brick.
Sure.
Either way, I like it. 6.5 for me, 7 for you, pretty close. Thief of Existence, 3 mana for a 3/4 with Devoid. When you cast a spell, exile up to one target non creature, non land permanent, and opponent controls with mana value 4 or less. If you do, Thief of Existence gains when this creature leaves the battlefield, target opponent draws a card. Oh, interesting. So it's sort of like there was a mage that like destroyed a creature and they always drew a card. This is like delayed, but it's also only 4 mana or less. So it doesn't give them the card right away, but it's also a little bit more restricted. I like this card. It's going to be hard to cast. Some decks aren't going to be interested in the colorless mana, but if I can swing it, I'm pretty happy to play this.
Basically a multicolor card, but even if it truly was multicolor, I'd be thrilled with this card.
Yeah. The I'm hesitant to call these multicolors because I'm thinking it's like typically a third color because you're not usually going to be mono green and just this, right? So you have to
Sure.
be able to have the mana base to support technically a third color.
Agreed.
Or make the little duders, right? If you can make the
Yeah,
duders, great, but which I think it won't be too hard.
not in green at least.
So I like this card. I think it's well statted and its removal. I like this at a
Well,
7.
I will say, and I just kind of caught this reading it. It's non-creature, non-land permanent, so it can't kill creatures.
Oh,
I did not realize that at first. I was thinking it was like Skyclave Apparition, where it was any non-land permanent 4 or less. But this only hits artifacts, enchantments.
yeah. So it's less. So now it's only a 6.
6 sounds right because you're still getting a 3 mana 3/4, and it doesn't have the drawback if it didn't exile something.
Yep, absolutely. All right, Trickster's Elk, 3 mana for a 3/3 with Bestow. Enchanted creature loses all abilities and is a green elk creature token with base power 3/3. This
Oh
is kind of
go!
it's kind of cute because you can you with an enchant creature. It doesn't have to be a creature you control.
I'm double checking that right now.
I've
I
it's
believe it.
I've never put this in my brain because I've never thought about bestowing somebody else's stuff. But so I can elk their dragon, or I can elk my Eldrazi spawn, trade with a 3/3, and then get another 3/3.
I don't see anything looking at the rules that requires you to bestow it onto your own creature, but just like you said, I've never thought about it before.
Yeah, I think this is fine. It's flexible. This looks like a 6 to me, and you can just play it as a 3 mana 3/3.
6 sounds right.
All
It's
right.
it's the interesting twist. Like I said, I've never thought of bestowing on someone else before.
It's a Wampus. I love Wampus Aberration. He's so cute. I love Wampus. 4 mana for a 6/6 with Devoid. When you cast this spell, if colorless wasn't spent to cast it, target opponent may put a creature card from their hand onto the battlefield. Okay, I'm not doing that. I'm going to
Oh,
assume I can make
oh,
it.
oh, Hunted Wumpus, you're back. You've been Eldrazified. Mercadian Mask's uncommon that was the same 3 and a green 6/6, but you always had to let them put a creature card onto the battlefield. I don't
Yeah.
think that had trample. I don't think that had trample either, but
I'm fine to give this a good score still. I think on 2 and 3 you might be able to make a deuter, and then you could just like sack the deuter to play this really cheaply. I wonder how many 2-drops there are that makes a deuter, because that'd be really crazy to play on turn 3.
Sure, that's a pretty nice little early ramp target.
Yeah, that's pretty insane. I'm gonna assume if you're doing this, you have dudes, or the colorless lands or whatever. So I don't know. It seems like a pretty strong card. It seems like a 6.5. I think this will win games.
Definitely want to be able to, like you said, cast it with colorless. If you absolutely can't, which should be hard in green, then you probably might not even put this in your deck.
Oh yeah,
But
yeah, not at all.
but almost every green deck, if not every green deck, will have some sources, and that probably makes it worth the risk to have this in there. So yeah, 6/5 seems pretty good.
All right, next we have our modal cards. The Bridgeworks Battle. 3 mana for target creature you control gets +2/+2 until end of turn. It fights up to 1 target creature you don't control. Oh, that's kind of cool. It doesn't have to fight. It says up to 1, so you can just use it as an expensive fight spell if you have a lethal.
Oh, okay, expensive, yeah, sorcerer speed trick.
Yeah. Like it's just
No,
a flexible thing that's further flexible by just adding up to 1, and that's not lost on me. I appreciate that. So it's on a land, it's free, so it's a 10 out of 10. No notes. It's free.
I think
Eventually,
when
we're gonna
they
get to Magic where every single card is a land on the backside, and we're just playing
is it that
Hearthstone or
yeah, uh,
Lorcana.
Orcana, yeah, that's what I was thinking of, yeah. Uh,
I love it. I think it's I don't know, 7.
7 is what we've been mostly giving these modal spells, unless they're really bad, and they get
Yep.
like a 6.9.
Disciple of Freyles. I also got to play this in my deck this past week for Commander Countdown, or sorry, decked out. 3 green, green, green. When it enters the battlefield, you may sacrifice a creature. If you do, you gain X life and draw X cards, where X is that creature's power. This came in really handy for me in game, but that was in a constructed great game where sacrificing a creature was not nearly as punishing. Paying 6 mana, including triple green for this ability when you maybe only have like a 2/2 or a 3/3 or something, feels not great. Casting it, sacking it itself. Oh no, it says another. You can't even do that. It's free. It's still a 7, but it says you may. I don't know. I'll take a free 3/3 when I'm flooded out in the late game, even if it costs 6 mana.
Absolutely.
Eh,
7 works for me.
7. But it is less exciting. Next up, we have the Grist Voracious Larva. 1 mana for a 1/2 with Death Touch. When it or another creature enters the battlefield under your control, if it entered from the graveyard or you cast it from your graveyard, you may pay 1. If you do, exile Grist and return it as Grist the Plague Swarm. It is a 3 loyalty planeswalker. You can plus it and make a insect creature token, then mill 2 cards, put a death touch counter on the token. If a black card was milled this way, you can pay -2, destroy target artifact or enchantment. -6 for each creature card in your graveyard, create a token that's a copy of it. Except it's a 1/1 black and green insect token. So that'll be good for like ETBs or death touch triggers or flying counter, flying things. Kind of you get all those extra keywords. It's not as good as like a Johnny or some of the other planeswalkers, but it's not as bad as Ral.
No, but it's got to be the hardest to flip, right?
Um,
You have to get a creature to come into play from your graveyard.
yeah. I don't know. I'm gonna have to
That's
take a look at the rest of the set, but I think you might be right. I think this might not be super limited playable. But that said, it's a 1 mana 1/2 with Death Touch, which is like fine.
it's limited playable just for that alone, but it's
Yeah.
not exciting.
Let's
That's a tough condition.
let's assume we can't complete it. Then it's probably like
5.
yeah. Yeah, I agree. It's probably a 5. We'll have to see how reasonable it is to flip this. But I like just calling it a 5 for now.
Agreed. I remember there was the one black card that you could cast, creature that you could cast from the graveyard, bring back from the graveyard. That's the only one and there's always some reanimate stuff.
And
but...
6 has Retrace.
True, true. Does
That's a
work with
rare.
6.
But, like, you know, we'll see what kind of other options we've got. Endurance, 3 mana for a 3/4 flash and reach. When it enters the battlefield, up to one target player puts all the cards from their graveyard on the bottom of their library in a random order. Little protection from self-mill. It's decent stats, decent blocks, keyword. I like it just for that. The rest, the graveyard thing is neither here nor there. Sometimes it's helpful, sometimes it doesn't matter. It's kind of cool if they're targeting something in their graveyard, you could put it on the bottom.
Yep, it's free graveyard hate for that stuff, for any reanimate spells or things like that, and it just comes on a body that you're happy to play and can maybe ambush some stuff.
6.
A little higher on this. I think it's like a 6.5.
All right, next up we have our like returning things. Annoyed Altasaur, 7 mana for a 6/5 with trample, reach, and cascade. This will be cheap to cast with all the Eldrazi spawn. I think that's fine. I don't mind an overly costed thing with cascade. 6.
6. Just on. It is what it is on its face.
Branching Evolution. When I drafted this at Wizards of the Coast headquarters for the early access preview video, my draft deck had 2 of these, and it was freaking sweet. 3 mana for if 1 or more +1/+1 counters we put onto a creature you control. Twice that many counters are put on instead.
What?
Turn 4. What? Did I read it wrong?
No, you're good.
On turn 4, I made 2 8/8s. It was fantastic. Okay. Uh-huh.
What set symbol is that?
What?
The one in the background that's supposed to say what set it's from
Jumpstart.
originally. Oh, okay.
That's one of the jump starts. I don't remember which one.
Did not recognize that at all. So I was trying to figure out where it came from.
Rating wise, it's a split card, right? It's a 1 in some decks and it's going to be like a 7 in the other.
I almost want to say even higher because it's either completely unplayable or the best card in your deck.
Yeah, there's actually the card, the 8/8s I was making, there's a 2-drop that just comes in, it's a 2-drop, comes into play with 3 +1/+1 counters on it. And you just...
That's pretty...
Yeah.
Yep, that's nuts.
You just kill someone. Priest of Titania, 2 mana for a 1/1 that makes 1 mana for each elf on the battlefield. So 1 at least. And then it's got some good upside. I like that. We've got some expensive things we want to be casting. This seems like a solid 6.
Just a 6 for its, mana dorks are generally just playable at 1 or 2 mana. There's only a couple other elves in the set.
Yeah.
So it's not going to do much. I mean, this is really here as a reprint to get this card out there because I don't think it's been reprinted since Urza Saga.
Yeah.
But you're still going to play it because it's a basic mana dork. So yeah, 6.
All right. The Sylvan Safekeeper, 1 mana for a 1/1. Sacrifice a land. Target creature you control gains Shroud until end of turn. Sacrifice a land. That seems pretty cool. I'm kind of here for that.
Staggeringly annoying to play against.
Yeah. It's low impact on its own, but the fact that the mid to late game they can just never touch your shit. I'm here for that.
I mean, this card's seen fringe legacy play. For the lands decks that make Merit Lage tokens.
What are you thinking rating wise?
Still, it's probably a 6. I don't know. I guess I definitely want to have... Green is going to have bigger stuff if they have Eldrazi, so maybe you do have stuff that you really want to protect.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not a split card, but it almost feels like it, because it's if you... cheap and aggressive, you're never going to really care that much about protecting stuff. But your bigger things, you will.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think it's that much of a distinction for me to care about a split. Because even when you're the aggressive one, you don't want them removing your stuff when you're aggressive. So, I don't know. That said, I still don't think it's insane. It's a 1 mana 1/1 that, you just kind of sits there a good chunk of the time, and then they can't touch you. You still have to go over the top. You still have to be kind of ahead for this thing to be good, if that makes sense.
It just helps you. It helps keep you ahead.
Yes, and helps them from stopping you from being ahead. Rating wise, this is like a 5. I think it makes the cut in most things.
That's fair.
Wirewood Symbiote. Let's go. Love this card. All right, it's a 1/1 insect for 1. Return a target elf you control to its owner's hand. Untap target creature. Activate only once each turn. Oh, I love this in my I forget the name of the elf. Lathril deck. Yes, my Lathril deck loves me a Wirewood Symbiote. Infinite value all day.
Unfortunately, in this set, there's like no elves you actually care about returning.
That's what I was thinking as well. There's like, this
There's
is not.
one that
Yeah.
there's one that you can like bring it back if you want to play it again and readapt. But otherwise, there's the other elves don't have ETBs or any.
Is the adapt?
The Eternal Witness.
Yeah. Is that an elf?
Yeah, that's
Okay.
the only one other than the that has any sort of ETB.
So if I have 2 Eternal Witnesses, I'm playing this card. But other than that, I'm gonna say it's a 2.
Agreed.
That's it. That's the end of green. What'd you think, Yanks?
A lot of Eldrazi spawn running around.
Yeah.
This feels like the most focused color since maybe white. The others have seemed kind of a little bit all over the place, but this seems to be very clearly either spawn ramp or token or counters.
Yeah. Lots of counters. Love it.
So I think this should play pretty well because it's pretty set on what it's trying to do.
I'm in love with the counters of this set. I'm very excited. Don't forget to leave us a comment down below. Let us know what you guys think of green. We'll see you guys in the next video for Colorless. Thank you so very much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe to support the channel. See you next time, guys. Bye.